There is a moment that happens in Maasai communities in the Loita Hills of southwestern Kenya that most outsiders misread the first time they see it. A boy, 7 years old, maybe 8, is sent out alone to move a small group of cattle to a different grazing area. Not a large herd, 4 animals, maybe 5. The terrain is open, semi-arid scrub. There are acacia thorns. There are snakes. There are predators that have not been entirely removed from this landscape. The adults who sent him out are not watching from a distance. They have returned to other work. The boy does not look back. That detail, not looking back, is the one that stays with you. Because it is not the absence of fear. Watch his face when a cow breaks from the group and moves toward the brush line. His jaw tightens. His grip on the stick changes. He moves faster. Something in his body is running the threat calculation that every nervous system runs when something unpredictable happens in open terrain. But he does not look for an adult. He does not wait to be told what to do. He moves. By the time he is 9, that response, move, not freeze, act, not look for permission, is not something he has practiced in structured sessions. It is simply how his nervous system has learned to meet the world. In the United States and the United Kingdom, the parenting and child development industry spends an estimated $2.4 billion annually on products, programs, and therapeutic services specifically designed to build confidence and reduce anxiety in children. Confidence journals, positive affirmation cards, structured social skills curricula, resilience coaching, after-school programs with names that include the word brave. The CDC's 2022 National Survey of Children's Health found that 9.4% of American children between the ages of 3 and 17 had a current diagnosed anxiety disorder. Another 1 in 3, according to the American Psychological Association's 2023 Child Survey, reported anxiety symptoms that interfered with daily functioning at school. That is not a paradox. That is a consequence. The Maasai boy in the Loita Hills has never done a confidence-building exercise. His community has no equivalent concept. Not because the Maasai do not understand child development, they understand it in a way that most developmental psychologists are only now beginning to document. But because the idea of building confidence separately from doing real things is, from the Maasai perspective, incoherent. You do not build confidence, you build a life. Confidence is what accumulates in a child's nervous system as a byproduct of doing things that matter with real consequences. That distinction is the entire story. Here is what it looks like in practice, why it produces the neurological outcome it produces, and why the modern parenting industry's substitute for it is, by the evidence, not working. The false explanations. Before the mechanism, the obvious answers, because they are the first thing most people reach for, and they are all wrong. It is not that Maasai children are raised without love or protection. The Maasai family structure is intensely protective. The difference is what protection means. It is not genetic. We know this because Maasai children who are raised in Nairobi, in westernized households, with reduced community structure and reduced real-world responsibility, show anxiety and behavioral trajectories that begin to resemble urban Kenyan norms within 1 generation. The fearlessness does not travel in the DNA. It travels in the environment. It is not the absence of screens, though screens are absent. Children in screen-free Western households who are also kept in low-risk, adult-supervised, consequence-free environments do not develop the same fearlessness profile as Maasai boys. The removal of one modern feature is not sufficient. Something else is being added. It is not hardship alone. Children who grow up in poverty, in chaotic or unsafe environments, do not emerge fearless. They emerge hypervigilant, which is a completely different neurological state. Hardship without structure and without witnessed competence produces anxiety. The Maasai are not producing fearlessness through difficulty, they are producing it through something else entirely. So what is actually happening in that boy's nervous system when he doesn't look back? The mechanism. What Maasai child rearing is actually doing. The clinical term is graduated exposure with social witness. Every piece of it matters. Researchers Suzanne Gaskins and Ruth Paradise, studying indigenous child-rearing practices across multiple traditional communities, including Maasai-adjacent pastoral groups in Eastern Africa, documented what they called intent participation, a model of learning in which children are not taught skills in isolation, but are integrated into genuine community activity from the earliest ages at which they can meaningfully contribute. Their work, published across several volumes of the Cambridge Handbook of Sociocultural Theory, draws a direct line between this integration pattern and the development of what they term motivated self-regulation, the child's ability to manage their own behavior and emotional state in high-stakes situations without adult direction. This is not the same as unsupervised independence. The distinction is critical. A Maasai boy aged 4 is not sent alone into open terrain. He is present in it alongside adults and older children who are doing real work. He observes. He assists at the margin. He is handed small, genuine responsibilities within a larger, genuine task. The adults do not narrate the task for his benefit. They do not modify the task to make it easier. They simply do the work, and he is there. By age 5, he has a small responsibility that is genuinely his. 2 goats, a specific section of the family's enclosure, something real, something that fails in a visible way if he fails to do it. By age 6 or 7, the radius expands, the social witness expands. Older boys who have already moved through this sequence are present, not as supervisors, but as peers doing harder things. He can see what is coming. He has a map. By age 8 or 9, he is doing the thing unsupervised. The neurological mechanism behind this sequence is well established. A 2019 study in developmental cognitive neuroscience examining prefrontal cortex development in children aged 5 to 9 across populations with differing degrees of real-world risk exposure, found that children with regular unsupervised outdoor activity involving genuine consequence showed measurably greater prefrontal cortical thickness and faster threat response regulation times. The prefrontal cortex is the structure that regulates the amygdala, the brain's threat alarm. When the prefrontal cortex is well developed, fear is processed and responded to, rather than triggering a freeze or shutdown response. The Maasai sequence builds this structure. It builds it by giving the nervous system exactly the right dose of genuine threat. Not manufactured threat, not pretend challenge, at each developmental stage. Not more than the nervous system can process, not less than it needs to grow. This is what graduated exposure means. The dose calibration is not accidental. It is built into the community structure itself, into the age grading system, into the specific sequence of responsibilities, into who is present at what stage. The piece the modern world removed. Here is where the confidence-building industry's fundamental error becomes visible. Confidence-building programs, the journals, the affirmation cards, the resilience curricula, are designed to produce the feeling of confidence, the internal state, the self-perception. The child is taught to believe they are capable before they have done the thing that would make them actually capable. The Maasai sequence operates in the opposite direction. The child does the thing. The thing is real. It has stakes. It either succeeds or it fails, and that failure is visible and the child deals with it. The confidence, if you want to use that word, is a byproduct, not a target. There is a specific phrase used in developmental psychology for the internal experience that results from genuine competence at a genuine task. Self-efficacy. Albert Bandura, the Stanford psychologist whose 4-decade body of work established self-efficacy theory, was consistent on one point. Self-efficacy is not built by being told you are capable. It is built through mastery experience, succeeding at something that genuinely challenged you. Not something designed to make you feel like you succeeded, something you actually might have failed at. The modern parenting environment, with the best intentions, has systematically removed mastery experience from childhood. Not because modern parents are negligent, because the world that surrounds a modern household has made genuine childhood risk, unsupervised outdoor time, age-appropriate real responsibility, tasks with real stakes, legally, socially, and culturally difficult to provide. The confidence-building industry rose to fill the gap, and it filled it with a substitute that produces the appearance of the outcome rather than the mechanism that creates it. The Maasai do not have a confidence gap in their children. They have a life that is structured so that confidence is an inevitable byproduct of growing up inside it. What this looks like in a modern household. The Maasai sequence is not something that translates directly into a Western household. There is no equivalent to the Loita Hills in a Chicago suburb. There is no equivalent to an age-graded peer group watching you manage livestock. But the principle translates. The principle is this: real responsibility, with real stakes, sequenced to the child's developmental capacity, within a community that witnesses the outcome. For a child aged 3 to 5, this looks like a household task that genuinely fails if they fail to do it. Not a task with a gold star at the end. A task where something actually doesn't happen if they don't do it. Dishes that don't get washed. A plant that doesn't get watered and eventually dies. Small. Real. Theirs. For a child aged 6 to 9, this looks like genuine independent outdoor time. Not scheduled playdates, not supervised park visits, but unstructured time outside the adult's line of sight, in an environment that has been assessed for genuine safety but not sanitized of all challenge. This is harder in a modern context. It is not impossible. The research on this specific intervention, increasing unsupervised outdoor time for children between 6 and 10, is consistent. A 2020 meta-analysis in child development, reviewing 28 studies across 11 countries, found that children with greater access to independent outdoor activity showed significantly lower anxiety symptom scores, higher self-reported competence, and measurably better performance on executive function tasks. The effect size was not small. The social witness piece, the older child or peer group that allows a younger child to see what their own future capability looks like, can be approximated through mixed-age play, through family structures where younger children are genuinely present for older children's real activities, through community contexts where children of different ages do real things together. None of this requires the Loita Hills. It requires a willingness to allow the real world to reach your child at the pace their nervous system is ready for. The return to the boy who doesn't look back. That detail is worth returning to. Not looking back. The boy who doesn't look back at 7 years old is not performing bravery. He is not suppressing fear. If you watch him closely enough, the jaw, the grip, the pace change when the cow breaks toward the brush, the fear is there. What is not there is the question, is there an adult who will manage this for me? That question, whether consciously or not, is the question that most Western children between the ages of 6 and 12 are running in the background of almost every challenging situation. Not because they are weak, because the environment they have grown up in has consistently answered it with yes. The Maasai environment answers it differently, not by removing adults, by building a sequence in which, at each stage, the child already knows the answer. They have done the smaller version of this. They have seen the older child do the bigger version. The question stops forming because the nervous system already has the answer stored. That is what fearlessness is. Not the absence of fear, not a character trait, not something a child is born with or that can be installed with a confidence journal. It is a nervous system that has been given enough real experience to answer its own questions. If you have a child between the ages of 4 and 9, the most useful thing you can do this week is not a confidence-building exercise. It is to find one real task, something that actually matters to the running of your household, and hand it to them completely. No checking in, no step-by-step guidance posted on the fridge, no gold star. Let the task be real. Let the stakes be small but genuine. Let them find out what they are capable of without an adult confirming it first. The Maasai boy already knows. Yours can too. If this is the kind of content you want more of, real evidence from real communities about what child development looked like before the modern parenting industry replaced it, subscribe. And leave a comment. What is one task you remember doing completely on your own as a child that no child in your neighborhood does anymore? I want to hear it.